Let's discuss why we feel like we're never doing enough. I'm struggling with putting so much pressure on myself right now, so I thought maybe we should talk about it. I can be relentless on myself with every single moment in my day sometimes. It's not coming from anywhere else, just me. I've concocted a million stories in my head about why it's important that I do this or that or stay on top of this or that. Everyone else in my life could literally not care less. Anyway, I figure some of you out there can relate, so let's talk about why that happens for some of us and some insights and direction for getting yourself through the self-imposed high-pressure times. I'm Ashley Mason. I'm a licensed mental health counselor of 14 years. Let's get into the video. I put pressure on myself as quickly and easily as I breathe the air all day long. I have a negative voice inside that criticizes and pushes and pushes and pushes. It tells me I don't get out of bed quickly enough after the alarm goes off. I don't play with my cats enough before I sit down to do my morning routine and drink my coffee. I don't get ready fast enough for the gym so I can make the most of my time there, or I don't push myself hard enough at the gym. God forbid I don't work out at all. You get the idea. That goes on with every little and big thing throughout the day. Especially now as I have basically added a second job to my life, which is YouTube and making videos. So what might cause periods like this for us? Let's discuss. I think it's important to look at the origins of this kind of pressure. You might think everyone feels this way, but actually, believe it or not, there are lots of people out there who are blessed with a crazy lack of self-imposed pressure. They might like to improve and get better at things, but it's not pressure and criticism that's driving them. It's possible you've gotten away from, or you've never been allowed to simply think along the terms of what you want in whatever moment. I remember the first time my psychoanalyst asked me, well, what do you want in regard to some situation? And I was like, what do you mean? And many of my patients have that same response to me when I pose the question to them. That question helps you get into a mode of distinguishing between your ideal self and just yourself. Your ideal self or false self is more like a facade you put on for the world. We all do it. We all have ways. We have to keep some of ourselves hidden just to get along in the external world. However, when the ideal self takes over, and it can at these times, it results in a ton of pressure. For example, say you had told a group or organization that you were committed to them for the next year, thinking you could really do it. But a few weeks or a few months into it, you realize you really can't. And it's adding a ton of stress to your life to try to make it to the meetings. People are relying on you for a certain role you play, so you feel obligated. But ask that question, what do you want? And remove it from your plate, most likely. They will have to deal with the loss of you, and that's okay. You simply cannot be a martyr when your mental health is at stake. This method, this question, will take you out of your ideal self and put you back in touch with that real self. And I promise you, you'll be happier when you're in more alignment with yourself. The other possibility is to do with your parents. Are you still proving something to them about who you are? Maybe you grew up with a parent or two for whom what you did was never enough. Maybe you were told incorrectly about who you are, so you've devoted yourself to some other ideal version of you. Maybe you were neglected or abused and your sense of worth didn't really form as a child, and instead you developed a deep sense of shame. A parent's job is to help you feel good about yourself, not your ideal self, your real self. I know in my family, my ideal self was praised and my real self was ignored or insulted. A parent's job is to say, hey, you don't seem like you're into doing your homework today. What's up? Not to say you're lazy. Your real self is feeling something or thinking something that's getting in the way of doing the homework. The parent's job is to help you figure that out and work through it, not to make you feel ashamed of it, so that you can know that part of yourself and know how to work with it, you know? Fast forward to being an adult and you grow up with a fundamental belief about your laziness. And maybe you end up thinking you have to kick your ideal self into gear all the time in order to avoid the laziness. Your parents' critical voice has now become your voice, how you speak to yourself, motivating yourself through criticism and pressure and fear. Underneath it, you're still trying to gain your parents' approval, thinking one day they'll finally see how great you are. The thing is, you're already great, and they may never see that. I've seen this enough to know many parents don't change. So you will have to. You'll have to work on getting comfortable with yourself. All the parts, not just the ones you think other people like or want or admire. I've kind of already alluded to directions you could take, but I'll be a bit more clear here. First, a disclaimer. Be careful about this tips section or what to do part, because if you're like me, it can feel like one more thing you have to do and you'll add pressure instead of take it away. First of all, go to therapy and get some help in developing a buffer voice, a kinder voice that can drown out the negative voice, a more supportive voice. A lot of times people come to internalize their therapist's voice, and that becomes their main voice rather than the mean one from childhood. As I mentioned, start asking yourself what you want in any situation. Once you act according to what you want, you remove the sense of obligation and pressure from it. Like, if you're feeling pressure to go visit this or that family member over the holidays, or make it to this party or that party or whatever, first and foremost, take a second to breathe and ask yourself if you want to do that thing. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. It will all be fine. If it's something that really does feel like an obligation you can't get out of, you feel it's impossible to step away from, like, say, for me, like, if my husband were to have an office party and he really wants me to go, but I do not, there's a workaround for that. What I think about is there something I do want in the situation? Is there someone I want to see there? And then maybe I remember that I do want to support my husband and I do want to make him happy. That feels lighter to me than feeling forced to do something I don't want to do. Then it kind of takes away that sense of obligation from it a little bit. Or you can talk to an honest and authentic friend who will be able to relate to you. Don't go to someone who isn't generally in touch with their real selves, their true selves, and aren't generally comfortable with themselves. That won't help. With me feeling all this pressure lately, I had to go on a walk with my husband and have a chat. He brought me back down to earth and reminded me that if you're doing something for external reasons only and not your own, you're gonna burn out, period. Whatever it is you're pursuing, you have to come back to yourself and your reasons for doing what you're doing. The misery really does set in when it's all about what you should do or what you could be doing. You know, let that go and just be and exist. Thank you so much for watching. You can see other videos of mine here.